Hello, and welcome to the MMA Mic Drop Podcast. My name is Jade Bunky, and I'm joined by the one and only MMA Milo, who is not only an emerging MMA analyst, but also one of the nation's top up-and-coming youth surfers. In today's episode, we're going to break down everything that's about to go down at UFC Fight Night 284, Gamrot versus Salkilld. And if you are joining us from the Shillin and Duffy show, thank you so much. Welcome. Those guys were absolute legends, or they still are. I shouldn't speak to them or speak about them posthumously because they are still alive, even though the show is no longer. Milo, this is a really interesting fight night card. The main event is absolutely incredible. The rest of it is pretty weak. What are your general thoughts on this fight night and the card as a whole? And what fight are you most interested in outside of the main event?
I think it's a pretty good card. I'd probably give it a B, but outside of the main event, I'm excited for Diego Ferreira.
I would grade it a C. I love the main event. I think the main event is absolutely incredible. I mean, you have a legitimate prospect in Salkilld fighting in not only an established veteran, but Gamrot is somebody who's I wouldn't put him as a contender, but he's on the periphery of contendership. He's an elite lightweight, and so this is going to be an exciting fight. So let's get into it. Let's break down each of these fighters. Milo, would you like to break it down, or should I start?
I'll start. Mateusz Gamrot, he's got really high level wrestling. He's got pretty okay boxing, but Quillan Salkilld is a really high level striker, and he has really good grappling. I think that Quillan's not. I don't think this fight's gonna end up on the ground. I think Quillan's going to be good enough on the ground to keep it standing. I think he's going to piece him up for 5 rounds straight.
And so you have him by a decision, or do you have him finishing?
Yeah. By decision.
I really love this fight, and I really like it because, typically when the UFC matches up a prospect, and I don't even know if Salkild's a prospect anymore, right? I mean, he's 5-0 in the UFC. He is ranked, right? He is ranked in the top 15 now, right? If you can check that and check Gamrot's ranking, I believe Gamrot is ranked in the top 10. It's interesting.
Oh my God, bro. My freaking garage went off.
What happened?
My garage, bro. I'm freaking sweating nuts in my room right now.
I don't know if we should leave this in. Just go ahead, turn on your fan for a moment. I can't even hear the garage. All right, there you go. The joys of doing a podcast with a teenager. All right, dude. I'm probably gonna leave this in. We can't even hear the garage, so just pretend nothing happens.
Right.
So, anyways, as I was saying, I believe Gamrot. I believe he's still in the top 10. I believe Salkilld is number 12. So if you can check out that, I believe it's this fight is a pick'em. I believe they're both at minus 110. When you look at the styles, I think you broke that down very effectively. Salkilld, I mean, he is 12-1. He has a 75% finish rate, and that's a blend of submissions and strikes. He is well-rounded, but I think he's a better striker than he is a grappler. He's finished 4 of his 5 fights in the first round, which is pretty crazy. And, he's riding a lot of momentum. He's only 26 years old. He's probably got the sickest stash in the game, and I think he's the real deal. And when you look at Gamrot,
all right. Mateusz Gamrot's number 8, and Quillan Salkilld is number 9.
Oh, okay. So he's actually number 9. Okay, I thought he was a little farther back. So yeah, I don't think you can call him a prospect anymore. The question is, how good is he? And when he goes against Gamrot, now Gamrot is, like you said, an elite level grappler. He has incredible wins. He has a win over Arman Sarukian. He has a win over Rafael Fiziev, Jalen Turner, RDA. I mean, he is. I think his ranking is appropriate. And so this is a really good test. And at 35, I think he might have slowed down just a little bit, but he hasn't fallen off a cliff. I mean, he's still an elite level fighter. I think he's still definitely an elite level grappler. So this is a great test to see how good Salkilld actually is. And I think he's going to get it done. I think Gamrot is crafty enough to, stay away from danger for, a few rounds. But I think Salkild's power is going to be the difference, and I think he's going to own him on the feet. I think let me retract that. I don't know if he's going to own him, but I think he'll have a convincing and noticeable advantage on the feet. What's going to be interesting is how well he does on the ground. I think he'll be able to neutralize Gamrot's grappling advantage. But what if this stage in their careers, Salkilld it hangs toe to toe with him on the grappling side, and that would really show what kind of prospect he truly is, or if he is like going to be a legit contender. But give me Salkilld by fourth round TKO. All right, the co-main event. It is Thainara versus Lemos. This is another interesting matchup. Again, you have a prospect in Thainara who's, I believe she's 14-1. Lemos, I mean, she was a contender. She did fight for the belt. She is a little older. She is 37 years old. She is a striker with good power, but she has been losing lately, though, to the elite fighters in the division. Milo, what are their rankings?
Their rankings? I don't know.
I mean, look it up. That's why you're sitting in front of a computer.
Keep talking.
I think this is a fascinating matchup. I think this is actually a pretty good co-main event. I mean, Thainara, so she only has one loss on her record, and it was against Barbosa, and that was earlier in her career, and she avenged that loss very convincingly recently. So, I mean, I think she's an elite.
Oh, wait, the records?
No.
Sorry.
I mean, you can throw out the records if you want.
The
rankings.
What was the question? I forgot.
Yeah.
The rankings, that's right.
The rankings. And so I think Thainara, so she has like 8 wins by submission. Lemos is going to be a little tricky, but I think she's going to get owned on the ground. And I think she's going to lock up a sub. Give me third round submission by Thainara. And then do you have their rankings?
Yeah, Amanda Lemos is number 7 and Alexia is 14.
I mean, yeah, I think this is a great matchup, and you'll have 2 fights that will be, that will represent a passing of the torch. Milo, what do you see happening in this fight?
I think that Alexia is gonna get first round submission by Bruno.
Oh wow, you're actually calling the type of submission. Yeah, I mean she looks really good on the ground. Before that, we're gonna have Diego Ferreira versus Billy Q. Milo, this is the fight in which you're looking forward the most outside of the main event. Tell me what you think is gonna happen.
I think it's gonna be extremely boring.
Wait, so why are you looking forward to this fight the most if you think it's gonna be extremely boring?
Because I want to fall asleep.
Okay. So what's gonna happen as you fall asleep and you miss it?
I'm gonna start dreaming.
What are you gonna dream about? Actually, I don't even want to know that.
All right.
What's gonna happen?
I'm gonna go.
Come on, dude.
I'm gonna go Diego Ferreira by decision.
Okay. Why?
Because he's gonna take him down and wrestle him.
Okay. No, I mean, you know what's interesting, and let me just run through the records real quick. Billy Q, he's 18-7. Diego Ferreira, he's 19-7. Sadly, both are, 0-4 in the last 4 fights combined. That doesn't say much. When you have 2 guys that haven't won in a while, that are old, that are, I believe this is the featured bout. So it might still deliver, though. I mean, if this fight was a few years ago, I think this is easy. I'd take Ferreira all day. I don't even think it's close. Now, Billy Q is interesting, though. He pushes the pace. And because he pushes the pace and because he's 37 and Ferreira is 41, I'm taking Billy Q on this. I think, I think what happens once you get to around 34, 35, you start to slow down a little bit. But when you get into your 40s and particularly 41, you start to fall off a cliff. And I think this is going to be a big problem for Diego Ferreira. So give me Quarantillo by second round TKO. And we're going to go through these fights pretty quickly. Our next breakdown, we're going to go a little more in depth. This fight card, I mean, it really is pretty poor. And makes me even almost want to talk about Milo's trip to El Salvador. Milo, do you want to tell us, you just returned? When did you return?
I returned 5 days ago.
How was it?
It was insane. The water was like too warm. Like when I would be surfing, I would like need to take breaks. So I would start sweating in the
Wow,
water.
that's
It was
awesome.
pretty gnarly,
Was it like
but it
86,
was
80,
insane.
87, or
Yeah,
that's so
I it was so hot that there's no sharks there, which is good.
wait,
Good. It's too
don't
hot
tiger
from there.
sharks like warm water?
I don't know. Maybe my dad was lying to me.
Making you feel confident. There you go.
Yeah,
Um,
I was surfing on the Lone.
there you go.
That was kind of cool.
No, that's good. I mean, it's yeah. I saw some of the clips, and we'll throw some in here. I mean, that's pretty insane, and it's always fun to surf in a tropical destination, plus in a place where there's no sharks. That's one of the things I like surfing in Barbados. Good waves, warm water, and no
Yeah.
sharks. All right, this next fight actually is pretty interesting though. Stephen Asplund versus Guilherme Pat. Asplund, he's 7-2. Pat, he is 6-1. Asplund, I mean, we talk about high volume. I mean, this guy is really high volume, and you look at him, and he's so out of shape. But he used to be, I mean, incredibly obese. I believe he was well over 400 pounds. He has an interesting story behind him, and it is pretty amazing. He can put on the pace that he's demonstrated, and he can take a punch. We saw him take quite a few from Vitor Petrino, who I think is actually a pretty solid fighter. Guilherme Pat, he's I think a better athlete, but he's kind of seems a little indecisive in his fights. I see Asplund putting a pace on Pat, and I think he's going to punish him for having two first names. And I think it is going to be TKO, Asplund by TKO. What do you think, Milo?
I agree with you.
Any other insights?
No.
Okay. All right. Diyar Nurgozhay versus Bruno Lopes. So what's interesting about this fight, I think this fight will be fun to watch. It will be exciting. It's just not going to be very high level. Both guys have losses to Ribeiro. I mean, both guys, I believe, are coming off losses. Nurgozhay, he is 11-2. Lopes, he is 14-3. They both have a little bit of power. They both like to move forward. I think somebody's going to get knocked out, and I think Nurgozhay is going to get knocked out. So give me Lopes by second round TKO. What do you think?
I think Nurgozhay is gonna knock him out in the first round because he has good Muay Thai.
Okay. All right. Wow. So you think he's just going to clinch up and get a couple knees in there and throw some elbows? And how do you see it?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Next up, Jose Luis versus Louis Sutherland. Would you like to break this down first?
No.
Okay. Luis, he is 6-1 and nobody knows anything about him. I mean, he's fought nobody. He's fought guys that are like 0-1 and 0-0, and it's always exciting when you get a heavyweight, like a big heavyweight that's not morbidly obese coming into the UFC, but you don't know because you don't know how good that person is, and it's always exciting. But this guy, it's hard to get excited about him because there's just not much known about him, and he hasn't really fought anybody. Now, Louis Sutherland, I'm going to say something a little surprising. I think he's actually pretty good. I know he had those two first-round knockouts. I mean, he was knocked out, but they were against pretty good fighters. I think he's 11-5. I think he's got some pretty good power. He's got some decent athleticism. He's a proper heavyweight. He's 6'3", 261. And yeah, it was by Walter Walker, who's turning out to be a lot better than we all thought he was, right? Who's 5 wins by sub in the first round, and then Pericic, who's a really good striker, and yeah, that was kind of the expected outcome. He's coming off a win over Tai Tuivasa, which is, again, it's not as impressive as that would have been 3 or 4 years ago, but I think he's actually pretty decent, and I think he's going to roll. I think he's going to steamroll Louise. Give me Sutherland by first round knockout. Now, there is the caveat that I have no idea how good or bad Louise is. I mean, he just hasn't fought anybody yet. So, Milo, what are your thoughts?
I'm kind of confused. Wait, so it says Louis Sutherland versus Jose Montana.
Yeah, on this one it says Jose Luis. It's the same person. Same person.
Oh, all right. I'm gonna go Jose by decision.
By decision. All right. All right, next up, please break down this fight: Julia Miller versus Ravena Oliveira.
Mm, wait. Actually, yeah, here I do. All right. Juliana Miller, she's 29, has a record of 5-4. She has good grappling. Ravena Oliveira is 29. She has a record of 7-4. She has good striking, and she has 6 KOs and 7 wins. I'm gonna go Juliana Miller by decision.
Yeah, yeah. This fight is probably the one fight that I'm looking forward to the least. I, I mean, I don't even know how to say this. It's pretty low level. Ravena is coming. She's lost 3 in a row. But one of the things that's interesting, she has a 100% finish rate. You mentioned, she has 6 by TKO over 7 wins, and the other one is by submission. And so I am going to take the person with the possibility of being able to finish this fight. And I think, Miller is crafty enough to maybe avoid some damage, but I'm going to go with Ravena by 3rd round TKO in a fight that I probably won't even watch. I will watch every other fight on here. That one just does not interest me whatsoever. But you know what does interest me? The return of Darren Elkins versus Yadier Del Valle. Now, Elkins, I thought he was retired. And he is one of the more interesting fighters in the UFC, or he was, because he would just take a beating and then at the most opportune time snatch up a sub or somehow get in a good position and win despite just getting destroyed. And I was looking at his record the other day and I was thinking, I'm like, this guy's, I really thought he was retired, and I'm like, okay, he must have been on like a 4 or 5 fight losing streak. He's won 2 out of his last 3 fights, which is insane at his age. But the problem is now he's so much slower. It's going to be so much harder for him to, I believe he's over 40 now. It's going to be so much harder for him to take a beating. And
Yeah, he's 42.
yeah, 42. I mean, geez, that is just too old. And Yadier Del Valle, like, it's interesting. He's 10-1, but there's some red flags, right? He had that win over Bulgarian, but there was some issues with the line, with line movement. And, we don't know what was going on there, so you can't really put any weight into that win. He did have another win. I think it was over, was it Matthews? It was over one of the lower level persons in the UFC. And then he just, let me just click in here. I think it was Levitt by whom he got submitted, who's a good grappler, but I don't know how good this guy is. But you know what I know? I know he's not 42. And because he's not 42, I think he's going to light up Darren Elkins, and I don't think Elkins is going to be able to withstand it. Let me just get his, okay, so he's 30. Yeah, I think he's going to light him up and give me Yadier by 1st round TKO. And if you're betting on DraftKings, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. If you're betting on DraftKings, I think this might be the fight. If you're having where it's not just about winning the bet, it's about how you win and it's accumulation of points. I'm putting this one on there. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna agree with you. I'm gonna go Yadier by submission, 3rd round submission.
All right. Next one. Now this is interesting. This fight actually is pretty interesting. Tycole Miller, he is 7-0. It's versus Billy Goff, who is 9-4. Miller is an interesting prospect. He's pretty big for the division. Let me just check his finish rate real quickly. It's okay. It's not that high. He has 3 TKOs out of his 7 wins. He had a 1st round. I thought it might be higher because he debuted with the 1st round knockout. So I was thinking, okay, maybe he had a little more power. But he is. Let me just check his age. Yeah, he's pretty young. He's only 26 years old. Goff, he's an okay average, maybe a little below average UFC fighter. So I think this is a good test, good second fight. I think Miller is going to light him up, though. I think there's going to be a speed advantage. I think he will control him at range, and I think he'll actually be better in basically wherever this fight goes. I'm taking Miller by decision. I don't know how you can have a nickname Thriller but have only 3 out of 7 finishes, but go ahead, Milo. Who do you think?
I agree with you. I'm going to go by Miller by 1st round knockout, though.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. Our friend Keith Schilling would always say, somebody's coming into their power years around, 25 and 26. But so, this could be, his display of power could be changing. Now, we had two more fights that were added onto the card, and they're actually pretty decent fights, particularly the first one. But the one that we're going to talk about now, Miles Johns, who is 15-5, Jesse Rojas is 8-1. Now, Rojas, he is the older brother of Raul Rosas Jr., and he's still only 23, but he is the older brother. Miles Johns, I mean, he's not as good as we thought he was when he was coming up. He's a really good athlete. He has all the tools. He looks like he could be a contender, but has never put it together. He is on a 3-loss. He's lost 3 fights in a row, but they've been to really good fighters. Daniel Marcos, Matsumoto, Felipe Lima. And so it's hard to see really where he is. I think he's a legit above average fighter in the UFC, even though he has kind of an average record in the UFC. I think he's pretty solid, and I think for a newcomer that's not one of the more hyped prospects, I think Johns is going to get it done. Give me Johns by decision. What do you think?
I'm gonna go Rojas just because he has good grappling, and I think he's gonna take him down and submit him.
Wow. All right.
And he has a better record. He's 8-1.
He's 8-1. All right. But against much lower competition, I think that's the problem. But yeah, who knows? I mean, I always, like I said about same thing with the big guys. It's always good to see a big heavyweight. It's always good to see somebody really, really young, come into the UFC to see where they are. And this is a good test. I mean, if he handles Miles Johns, I mean, he'll say he's a legit fighter. Now, this is the fight for which I'm most excited. That's not in the main event. Manoel Sousa versus Richie Miranda. Now, Sousa's, let me just check his record. Okay, so he's 14-1, and he has a win on the regional scene over Mauricio Rufy. That's insane. He has it's a 3rd round finish in his UFC debut. This guy seems to be the real deal. I'm curious to see, what he looks like in a second fight in the UFC. He's only 29 years old. I think Richie Miranda, he's 13-1 as well, but I mean, he doesn't have a win over Mauricio Rufy. I don't think he has the same level of skillness. He's a tough, durable fighter, but I think this is give me Sosa first round at TKO. Milo, what do you think?
I'm gonna agree with you, but I'm gonna go Sousa by decision.
All right. That's all. Again, promise we will be more in-depth to an extent next time when we have a more exciting fight card about which to talk. Like, subscribe. Milo, do you have a last word?
Drop the mic.
All right, we're out.